Good morning. So, the reason for this video is that I'm going to talk about a few housekeeping issues in relationship to the change of the due dates for your final assignments, your upcoming assignments, which is discussion board post number 3, discussion board post number 4, along with the final paper, which is the thesis supporting paper. Then I'm going to talk about actually writing the thesis supporting paper. And then I'm going to put everything all together to talk about how discussion board post number 3 and 4 relate to you completing the final paper and the resources on e-learning that I want you to review to finish and complete the final paper. So the first thing, the change of the due dates. So I finally have your annotated bibliographies. I finally have given feedback on everyone's annotated bibliography. It usually doesn't take me this long to do that. My apologies. I've been doing a lot of professional traveling for the past few weeks, but things are dying down now, so there should be a little bit of a quicker turnover time as we are composing our thesis supporting papers. With that, you want to make sure that before you upload your annotated bibliography to the Dropbox, that you are uploading a draft that is based off of my comments. So ask yourself, have I understood Joe's comments? Have I understood the links on e-learning that he's given me in terms of writing the annotated bibliography? And also, have I met all of the requirements on the requirement list in the annotated bibliography assignment sheet? So if you can't check those three things off, you want to make sure that you get with me to clarify any questions that you might have, or if you don't know, or if you have not been able to access your feedback yet, or if you're having trouble accessing your feedback, let me know. In terms of the due dates, now, as a result of the pushing back of the due date of the annotated bibliography, that's going to affect the due dates of the next assignments that are coming up. So if you go on e-learning, you'll see that the discussion board posts number 3 and number 4 are currently visible. So for discussion board post number 3, I've changed that due date to June 12th. Discussion board post number 4, the due date is now June 19th. And you need to respond to one of your peers' rough draft by June 24th. And the thesis supporting paper, which is the final assignment, is due no later than June 25th. Now, like I said before, I am flexible about these due dates. In one sense, you don't want to wait until the final minute to turn in a paper. Try to get it in a little bit early if you can, because that means that I can get back with you and give you feedback around on the discussion board post a lot earlier. When you turn in that final paper to the Dropbox, the earlier you get it in, the quicker your final grade will be posted on e-learning. But I also understand that we're working under a crunch time, and we also have to wait for feedback from others. With that in mind, I can be a little bit flexible about you turning in the paper maybe a day after the due date. But if you need an extension, like I said before, let me know. Keeping that in mind, the last day of class is actually June 25th. So I can't be as flexible about that, getting in the final paper on the final day, because grades are due the following Tuesday of the final day of class. So I have to make sure I get my grades in, and I still have to double check that in terms of that due date. I'll let you know when my grades are actually due. But the bottom line is that we really want to push for this June 25th to hand in our final paper. And the new due dates for the final paper are reflected on the thesis supporting paper assignment sheet. So once again, let me review that. Discussion board post number 3 is due June 12th. Discussion board post number 4 is due June 19th. Your response to a student's paper is due June 24th. And the final draft of your final paper, which is the thesis supporting paper, is due June 25th in the Dropbox on e-learning. So the next thing, how do we write the final paper, which is the thesis supporting paper? So, the thesis supporting paper, basically what you're doing is you're creating a thesis statement about the information you analyzed in your annotated bibliography. So basically, you're taking the same topic and you're developing that topic, you're honing in on a particular aspect of that topic, and you're creating a position or a thesis statement or a main idea about that topic, and you're using evidence from the research that you've developed in your annotated bibliography to help support your point. In e-learning, there is a link under the thesis supporting paper. So if you go to the content section, under the thesis supporting paper where it states writing the thesis supporting paper, you'll see a link on analysis and synthesis. So basically in your annotated bibliography, you analyzed information, you broke it down, you talked about what was in the text. Synthesis means that you are reorganizing that information around a main idea. So in the annotated bibliography, you were basically reporting what they say. The writers, the bloggers, the scholars, the doctors, the lawyers, the professionals in the field. In this paper, the thesis supporting paper, you're synthesizing that information, reorganizing it so that to support the main idea or a position that you're taking on the subject. Now, when we talk about this idea of thesis statements, a lot of times we get scared because we are afraid of the term thesis statement, because thesis statement is such a nebulous term at best. We see thesis statements everywhere. If you consume social media, if you're riding down the street and you see a billboard has a thesis statement. I mean, the main position is buy this thing, and then they might have elements within that billboard that provide evidence as to why one should buy this thing. We see thesis statements when we see advertisements for films. When they make an advertisement, they do these things and they say, like, here's the executive producer of this film, here's the actor of this film. They're trying to use elements to help you, to persuade you to come see that film. A lot of times thesis statements are explicit. They're right there in the text. A lot of times thesis statements are implied, like the examples that I've given. So that's why it's sometimes difficult to sort of hone in on what a thesis statement is, because sometimes it's right there in the text and other times it's implied. For this paper that you're writing, your thesis statement has to be explicit in the text. It has to be the statement, sometimes we like to call the "this I believe" statement, that says, here's how I'm sort of understanding, here's how I understand the information that I am researching. And so when you're writing your thesis statement, it's not necessarily that you are trying to argue the right answer or you're trying to argue the solution to a problem related to your paper, but more so you're trying to illustrate this thing, this issue that you've identified related to your topic. You're trying to show that, for instance, this is how these issues around this topic have emerged over time. So for instance, say you're doing a paper on mental illness. Your thesis statement is not going to be, this is how we should treat mental illness, because you've only been doing research on mental illness for the past 3 weeks. At the same time, the information that you've gathered, you might say, here's my observation about how mental illness is portrayed in this particular film or in this particular social context, in which you provide evidence to support your observations. So the thesis supporting paper, in some sense, you are making an argument and you are trying to persuade your audience to think a certain way about a subject. But more importantly, you are basically situating, or you are providing a position, an observation about the information that you've researched. The reason why you should connect, or the reason why I connect the annotated bibliography to the thesis supporting paper, is because many times after this class, it's going to be expected in academic writing that you have an understanding and you're able to take a stance or be able to develop an observation and support your observation with evidence. And so what we want to get away from is when we do research is to say that this is what I believe, this is how I feel about the topic, so now I'm going to go to the library and find out all the information to support what I believe. But rather, when you do research in the academic setting, you need to conduct an annotated bibliography or some sort of form of exploratory research, figure out what they're saying, and then support and use that information to support your position from there. One analogy is that I like to use is walking into a bar. You walk into a bar, you see three people at the bar having a highly debated political conversation, and before you can illustrate your point, you have to do the annotated bibliography. You have to hear what each person is saying and how each person, where they stand on the issue. And then this paper that you're getting ready to write, now you're getting ready to participate in the conversation and use the information that you have researched as evidence to support your point. So along with that, in the e-learning, I have provided useful links that you need to pay close attention to write your final paper. I have 3 different links on writing thesis statements. So I have 2 links that are a little bit more direct and to the point, and then I have 1 link that's a little bit more detailed in the explanation of a thesis statement. But a thesis statement, pretty much in its most simplistic sense, has 2 main ingredients. One of those ingredients is a claim, and another one of those ingredients are reasons. So your claim is this is what I believe statement. This is the thing that I am analyzing. This is the thing that I've supported. And then your reasons are the evidence. I believe this thing because of these reasons. This thing has emerged because of these examples. And basically you will use evidence to support and illustrate the examples that you provide, all coming back to the thesis that you have stated most of the time in your introduction. So when you go to e-learning, go back to the annotated bibliography tab and look at the sample papers that I've included from annotated bibliographies, and then you'll see how the students have gone from the annotated bibliography, in particular Cassidy Jordan's paper, and then you'll see how she's gone from the annotated bibliography to the thesis supporting paper under the writing the thesis supporting paper link. So I have the thesis statement links that are available for you. Again, the MLA APA formatting. You also want to look at how to write a good academic title. This time I'm going to be a stickler about writing a good academic title. Writing bodies, conclusions, and thesis statements. Another thing that we're going to talk about over the course of the semester is using attribution effectively. So one of the things about this paper that's hugely important, and this is why you had to practice using direct quotes in your annotated bibliography, is that you are going to be using information from other authors' ideas. So you need to be able to smoothly integrate quotes in your papers. And this is why using attributive tags is important. I also have links in here about how to provide a sense of flow in your paper. So that's using transitions, thinking about paragraph unity and coherence. And finally, I also have a link here on proofreading techniques. So between now and the composition of your discussion board post number 3, the discussion board post number 4, and your final paper, you will be looking at these links, and then I will be uploading some other helpful supplemental things about these links on the announcements page in e-learning. So let me just get to So when we do the discussion board post this week, you'll notice that the discussion board post is directly tied to, or it should help you compose your thesis supporting paper. So when you do the discussion board post number 3, That's designed for you to come up with a rough thesis statement. This is not the thesis statement that you have to lock in and commit to write this paper, but you want to get the thesis statement out so that you can get feedback from your peers and from me, and then when I give you feedback, then you can use that to help refine and be more specific with how you're going to develop your final thesis statement for your final paper. And then when you do that rough draft and post it to the discussion board post number 4, you'll get feedback from both me and your peers, and then you'll write a draft from there. So again, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns about the change of the due dates, accessing any links, or anything outside of that that I haven't thought about, that I haven't covered in this video, please feel free to let me know. For the most part, make sure that you hand in your annotated bibliography. I would like those today. Again, if you need a little bit of time, let me know. But please keep in mind that your final paper is due on June 25th. So you want to make sure that you allow yourself enough time to get this stuff done, and to also make sure that you are able to provide feedback and gain feedback from myself and your peers. Once again, happy reading, happy writing, and I will see you in cyberspace.